Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are tuning in. Thank you so much for joining me for this next episode of Brahma Viharas. This is Equanimity, and this episode is mostly going to be a guided meditation episode where we're cultivating equanimity for a group of people. And specifically, we'll be working with uh, a person we like, a person we dislike, and a person we don't know very well, a neutral person. Oftentimes, the neutral person is a stranger, but we can use anyone for whom there's no feelings of attraction or aversion towards. So, just a neutral feeling could be somebody you've seen at the grocery store, somebody who works at the bank, so forth, a face in the crowd. Now, the person that we dislike, we don't want to use somebody who really hurt us or wronged us. That makes the practice really heavy and generally makes it unworkable, particularly if you're new to this type of meditation. So we'll use somebody who just gives us some tension or agitation in our mind, in our body, in our heart when we think of them. Could be a politician. That's very accessible these days, I find. So, if you can, right now, as you're hopefully listening to me and perhaps looking at me as well, just call up into your awareness these three archetypal people: person we like or love, person we dislike, I call them perhaps a person of difficulty, and a neutral person. So, as you're holding these people in your awareness, you can do this with your eyes closed and actually visualize these individuals, or perhaps just saying their name a few times to get a feel for their presence. That might work as well. And then contemplate for a few minutes what causes these feelings in us. Was it perhaps the first time you met, that the person that you like was very warm to you, very generous perhaps? Maybe the person that you dislike, maybe they showed up late to this meeting, or they were somehow disrespectful to you. And then think, have these opinions or feelings developed over time? Have they fluctuated since the first time you met this person? Or was this a one-time meeting, perhaps with a neutral person? And you can notice how that one-time introduction locks this person into a freezed, fixed entity. We freeze them into being a this or a that. We actually do this with people we know too. We form an opinion about this person. We freeze them into being just that or just this. We do this with people we like, with people we dislike. This, I think, is what Sting was pointing at with his song, Free, Free, Set Them Free. Free from what? Free from our fixed views of what this person, what we think they are, what they should be in our awareness. And then when we meet them and they're acting differently, it gives us a tension. There's some sort of tension in our body, in our mind, in our heart, when the person we like is acting in a way that we think is disagreeable, or the person we dislike, they're acting in a way that they're showing kindness to somebody or something. We find that very challenging to assimilate. So in these practices of equanimity, we're practicing allowing those fixed views to dissipate. And so you might also notice with this person you like, this person you dislike, the person you don't know, notice how your opinions and feelings about this person becomes confused and intertwined with objective facts. I find that to be quite interesting. So we see this person and we see that they're, objectively they're rather thin or strong or elderly or young. And then we confuse that with being nice or bitter or being uh, dogmatic or being open. So our opinions about somebody becomes intertwined with objective facts. With these practices of equanimity, we slowly begin to tease apart our opinions about somebody with the objective being. And you might also notice how the way you perceive the loved one, the person of difficulty, and the neutral person, when you perceive these people, how you perceive them reinforces your feelings towards them. And your feelings towards them reinforces your perception. So we get locked into this cycle. We see this person, take the person of difficulty, we see them as being selfish, and that reinforces our feeling of them being selfish. And then, because we feel that they are selfish, when we meet them again, we will have that expectation. So that reinforces our perception, and we get caught into this cycle of seeing them, and then we see them that way because our view is tinted with this perception, with this belief that this person is X, Y, and Z. So again, these practices of equanimity allowing us to see through that perception and actually experience the human being as they are. Quite beautiful. Because when we suspend our judgments about people or about experiences, we allow ourselves a fresh outlook on the world. This outlook becomes freed from our preferences and prejudices. We can then enter into a creative relationship, a relationship that's allowed to shift and fluctuate as the people themselves shift and fluctuate, and as we ourselves continue to evolve and grow, our relationships are allowed to do the same. We don't lock our experience of life into a belief system. Okay. So I think I've said enough about the practice. Again, we're going to use a friend or a loved one. We're going to use a person of difficulty or a perceived enemy. And we're going to use somebody we don't know. And we're going to work with each of those individually. So I'll guide us into silence. We'll come into the present moment, just allowing our thoughts to settle, using the sounds of the present moment to ground our awareness, and using the sensations of the body and breath. Remember, experiences of sound and sensations are always present moment experiences. So we can always come back to the present moment through the sound, through the sensations of body and breath. And so we'll do a bit of that now. And then I'll guide a meditation specifically designed to cultivate equanimity for these three archetypal people. Enjoy. So allowing the body, mind, and heart to settle. just coming into this present moment experience. Now ring the sound of the bell again. Rest your thinking mind on the decay of the bell. And as the bell fades into silence, allow your thoughts to fade with the bell. Now ring the sound of the bell again. Rest your awareness on the decay of the bell. Allow the decay of the bell to guide your awareness into silence. And resting your awareness in the silence of the present moment. You might also notice the sounds of the present moment experience, not focusing on any one sound in particular, but noticing the entire field of sound. Hearing all of the sounds all at the same time. You might notice how the sounds and silence relate to each other or interact with each other. And while resting with the silence and sound of the present moment, bringing attention to the sensations of feet against the mat or the floor, sensations of clothing against the legs, noticing the weight of the body against the cushion or chair, mat or floor. Sensations of clothing against the back. You might also notice the hands resting against the body or touching each other. The arms resting against the body. You might notice the sensations of clothing against the shoulders. There might also be sensations arising from the back of the neck, the sides of the neck. Sensations arising from the back of the head and the ears. Noticing any sensations arising from the cheeks of the face, the lips and the nose, the eyes and the forehead. Noticing any sensations arising from the top of the head. And while resting there, with the sound and silence and the sensations arising throughout the body, bringing attention to the breath as it enters and leaves the nose, Noticing the breath as it touches the back of the throat. Noticing the rib cage expanding and contracting with each breath. The rising and falling of the abdomen as you inhale and exhale. And you might notice the back moving out as you breathe in and in as you breathe out. Noticing the shoulders rising and falling with each breath. And notice, while resting with the breath, the body, the sounds and silence, that here too we can practice equanimity, not judging any sensation, not judging any sound, not judging any thought, just rest. And now, while breathing in and breathing out, maintaining open, spacious awareness on the present moment, silence and sound, body and breath, allow a visualization to arise in your mind's eye of a friend or a loved one, somebody for whom you have strong fondness for. And if you can, seeing this person just clearly in your mind's eye, that's good. If not, maybe saying their name a few times, getting a feel for their presence. And now visualize this friend or loved one as a newborn baby, covered in blood. And slowly follow this friend, this loved one, as they grow from a newborn to a toddler. Visualize this person grow from a toddler into a child. You might see them experiencing some growing pains or their first teeth coming in. Perhaps visualizing this loved one learning to tell time, to read and write. And visualizing our chosen person, our fondness, growing from a child to an adolescent, their first days of school, making friends, visualizing our loved one growing from an adolescent to a young adult, their first dating experiences, their first sporting events, all of the awkwardness that comes along with moving from adolescence to young adult, perhaps braces or different types of fashion. Now remember the moment you first met this person. your first encounter with this person, this fondness, this person you're close to, and try to picture or visualize what this person's hopes and longings were before they even expected or suspected your existence. Try to imagine what their values and beliefs were long before you met. And think of this person now as someone who values their own beliefs and feelings and emotions much in the same way you value and hold on to your own. And now, visualizing our loved one as they begin to age, their body growing old and weak. Visualizing our loved one, elderly, they fall ill, grow old, and finally pass away. And breathing in and breathing out, allowing another visualization to arise in the mind's eye. Visualizing the perceived enemy, the person of difficulty. Again, not using somebody who really hurt us or wronged us, but someone for whom there's some real clear tension towards. And seeing this person clearly in your mind's eye, if you can, perhaps just saying their name a few times, getting a feel for their presence. And imagine this person of difficulty now as a newborn baby, covered in blood. And slowly begin to visualize this person as they grow from a newborn into a toddler. Growing from a toddler into a child, perhaps seeing them with their first toy. Visualizing them with a blanket. Visualizing our person of difficulty growing from a child into an adolescent. Their first experiences of schooling, their first friendships. Visualizing our perceived enemy growing from an adolescent to a young adult, the trials and tribulations and the joys of young adult friendships, dating, their first sporting events, perhaps visualizing this person of difficulty with their first pet. Now visualizing our person of difficulty the moment we first met them, recalling that moment of introduction, our first encounter, our first impressions of this person. Now try to visualize or imagine what our person of difficulty's hopes and longings were long before this person suspected your existence. And think of this person now as someone who holds on to their values, their beliefs, their ideas and emotions, much in the same way you hold on to your own. And in this visualization, we can begin to see our perceived enemy begin to age and grow older, their body becoming weak and frail, and finally fall ill and pass away. And breathing in and breathing out, allowing a visualization of the neutral person to arise in your mind's eye. For someone for whom there's no attraction or aversion towards. This might simply be a face in a crowd, could be a cashier at a grocery store. And now visualize this stranger, this person of neutrality, as a newborn baby, covered in blood. And slowly visualize our stranger as they grow from a newborn to a toddler. Growing from a toddler into a child. The typical experiences of growing pains. The fuss over hair cutting and nose blowing. Toilet training. Visualizing the stranger as they grow from a child to an adolescent. First days of school. As they grow into a young adult, perhaps visualizing their first encounter with sports or music. First dating experiences. Now visualizing this neutral person the moment you first saw them. You might recall simply a neutral feeling or kind of a bland indifference. Now try to imagine or visualize what this person's hopes or dreams might be long before that moment you first met them. And think of this neutral person now as someone who values and cherishes their own beliefs and values, their own feelings and emotions, much in the same way you value your own. And now, this visualization changing and evolving, we can see our neutral person as they age, their body growing weak and frail. They fall ill, they grow old, and they pass away. And now, while breathing in and breathing out, holding in your mind's eye in a visualization the loved one, the stranger, and the perceived enemy, holding all three of them in your mind's eye at once. You might see them seated or standing in front of you. Recognizing that all three of these people and yourself are equal in birth, sickness, aging, and death. We're equal in harboring dreams. We're equal in cherishing our values. And just rest right there, breathing in and breathing out. So thank you all for joining me today at the Brahma Viharas Equanimity chapter. This was a guided meditation designed to allow us to cultivate equanimity for large groups of people and eventually to the whole world using our archetypes, the archetypal relationship of someone we don't like, someone we're very fond of, and a neutral person. Because that's generally the people we meet fall into those categories. And at the end, we include ourself into the process of equanimity. So seeing that we're all connected in these ways. So just a little bit about practicing equanimity in everyday life, because although it's really, really helpful to have a meditation practice and to do these practices, um, and just to do mindfulness practice where you can just see each thought in a mindfulness practice and you don't judge those thoughts either. Another great way of cultivating equanimity. But there are ways of doing this in everyday life. One of my favorite ways is that when well, I live in Thailand and it's really hot here most of the year. It's hot or hotter. Those are the two seasons. And so when I go outside, I notice my mind say, oh, it's hot. Oh, I start judging it, right? But then if I can let those thoughts go and just experience the actual visceral experience of the air on my body, and I don't judge it, actually, we become more open to the experience. You feel the heat more vividly, but it doesn't bother you anymore because that struggle against it is no longer there. We're no longer bracing our body against the heat. We actually can soften and open into the present moment in moments that we normally would judge. We can now bring an equanimous heart and mind to that experience. So if you're in a hot day or a cold day, depending on where you are in the world, try that next time you go outside. If it's really hot, step outside, you say, oh, it's hot, then you recognize, oh, I'm judging. Allow the mind to rest for a moment and just experience what the air feels like. And you'll notice there's some relief there. You can also do this with an itch. An itch arises in the body, and you say, oh, that's really annoying. You go to scratch it, but just before you do that, just feel the itch. Take the label off it. Say, take the annoying label, take whatever label you've put on that sensation off, and just feel the sensation. And you'll notice the same thing. It gets a little more vivid, a little brighter, but it doesn't bother you anymore. There's no struggle against it. And that's a couple of really great ways of starting to move into an equanimous mind or into an equanimous heart. So you can do this with your own sensations of the body anytime throughout the day. Another great way of practicing equanimity is to set an intention. So maybe you wake up in the morning and you're planning your day, and just set 10 minutes aside. Doesn't matter when, any 10 minutes in the day. Let's use the example of 9:30 a.m. to 9:40 a.m. Okay, so from 9:30 a.m. to 9:40 a.m., I won't judge anything that happens. And so set that intention and then hold it. See if you can hold it for those 10 minutes. And see what happens to your experience in those 10 minutes. I'm pretty sure you're going to find that things arise for you in a different way. So that's another great way to kind of ease ourselves into an equanimous mind, into an equanimous heart. Like that. A couple of announcements. I have, at the request of people who have been following the Facebook Live sessions, now I'm on Instagram, and I think I have been uploading the videos, but now I'm doing it live for people who wanted to catch me there. That must work better for some people than others, or must work better for some people than Facebook. So today is my first Instagram Live, so thank you guys for joining me on Instagram. It's nice to see you all there. And also, I've launched a podcast. So I just got that up and running today. Also, people who have been following Facebook Live, they say, oh, we'd love to listen to you in the car and things like that. Um, and they encouraged me to move into a podcast. So that's up and running. So if you just go to Spotify and you put my name in, and put my name with meditation, because actually I used to be a musician. So if you put my name in Spotify, some of my old recordings might come up as well. That might be good, but it's not meditation. So put Chris Luard meditation, or the name of the program is actually Such Sweet Thunder, which is the same as my website. So if you go to Spotify and you put in Such Sweet Thunder meditation, my program comes up. You can also click on the link that's on my Facebook page. That might be easiest. Okay, thank you all for joining me for this episode of the Brahma Viharas. I will be back tomorrow guiding a meditation on equanimity. Tomorrow is the final chapter of equanimity practice. And then we're moving into the practices of joy. Wow, that's something to look forward to. I love that. I mean, who doesn't love practicing joy, right? So something to look forward to. Next week we'll be working with the experiences of joy and how to cultivate more joy for ourselves and for others. Beautiful. But tomorrow, Friday, one more practice on equanimity for the world. So I hope to see you all there. Stay safe, stay clean, stay healthy, whatever that means for you. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you so much.